After a brief yet intense 12 days war with Israel and growing fears of nuclear fallout, Iran has re-entered the diplomatic arena, meeting face-to-face with European powers for the first time since the fighting ended. The talks come at a tense moment as pressure builds to trigger the snapback of United Nations sanctions, a move Iran has condemned as meaningless and baseless. Tehran has pushed back, warning it may withdraw from the Global Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty if sanctions are reimposed. Yet, despite the high-stakes atmosphere, both sides have agreed to resume negotiations. The question now is, what lies ahead, and is a nuclear deal still within reach? Welcome to Think Tank.
Our world is becoming unhinged.
Following their first face-to-face meeting since the ceasefire, Iran described the discussions as serious, frank, and detailed, noting that both sides came to the table with concrete proposals. According to the Tehran Times, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Qasem Garibabadi said Tehran had strongly criticized the European stance on the recent war of aggression against Iranian people and reaffirmed Tehran's principled position on its nuclear rights. Ahead of the talks, senior Iranian officials emphasized the country's unwavering commitment to its peace nuclear program and criticized the conduct of European signatories to the 2015 nuclear agreement. Foreign Minister Basarakshi reiterated that Iran would not relinquish its right to uranium enrichment. Meanwhile, the E3 nations have warned that if a nuclear deal with Iran is not reached by the end of August, they will reinstate all the UN sanctions against Iran, which target sectors from hydrocarbons to banking and defense. In return, Iran has repeatedly threatened to leave the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which commits it to refrain from developing nuclear weapons if sanctions return. Now, building on recent developments, Iran and European powers have agreed to hold another round of nuclear talks soon, following their latest meeting in Istanbul. According to Bloomberg, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian stated that while Tehran remains cautious about its current ceasefire with Israel, it is not closing the door on diplomacy. The E3, along with China and Russia, remain parties to the 2015 nuclear agreement, from which the U.S. withdrew in 2018 during President Donald Trump's first term. Meanwhile, Iran has signaled its readiness to resume technical consultations with the International Atomic Energy Agency after partially suspending cooperation during the recent conflict. The IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi emphasized the importance of restoring full cooperation, noting that such engagement is a fundamental requirement for any country that is party to the NPT. Right, and diving more into the topic, we're joined from Paris by Mr. Meher Nicholas Ferzili, Director of the EU Asian Center, and from Cairo by Mr. Ahmed Maharem, writer and political analyst. Thank you both for being with us. And let me start here with Mr. Meher. And Mr. Meher, how would you assess the recent diplomatic meeting in Istanbul between Tehran and the E3 nations, given that it was their first since the 12-day war in mid-June? And were the outcome encouraging enough to signal a genuine renewal of diplomacy?
I'm delighted to join you today. To make a long story short, I would say it's a meeting for nothing, because to use a theatrical metaphor, it was a dialogue of the deaf. So the Iranians and the Europeans no longer speak the same language. And why don't they speak the same language? Because what happened during the 12 days war was a big shock to the Iranian regime. And the way it ended, so it ended abruptly against the will of Israel, because Israel wanted a longer war. Israel wanted to drag down America into a very long war in the Arabian-Persian Gulf, and President Trump did not want to. So he ended the war after 12 days in a very authoritative way. But one of the biggest victims of the 12 days war is Europe, because today Europe's presence in the Middle East, troika is a Russian word, which means a chariot or a car driven by three drivers or three horses. And who are the three horses here? It's Britain, France, and Germany. And Britain and France, they had economic and military interests in the Arabian-Persian Gulf until recently, but today they're completely diminished powers. They're practically out of the Middle East, and Germany was kicked out of the Middle East in the year 1917. That's a long time ago. And what I'm coming at is the world changed dramatically 6 months ago when President Trump entered the White House. We moved from a world governed by what you could call international bureaucratic laws. These international bureaucratic laws, of course, were not always implemented equally and fairly, but they existed. And there was kind of an international order, it all blew away 6 months ago with President Trump's entering the White House. It's a very different kind. You mentioned that President Trump canceled the first Iran nuclear deal in 2018. It's true. Back then in 2018, Trump was a very weak president, because when he came to power the first time, his own party, the Republican Party, was hostile to him, and the Pentagon and the CIA and the FBI bureaucrats, most of them were hostile to him. So the first Trump presidency, he was a diminished president with a hostile Congress, hostile Senate. His own party was largely against him. Fast forward today, it's a different kind of America. Trump took control of the Republican Party before winning the election. And the first thing he did when he entered the White House in February, he took control of the CIA, Pentagon, and the high-level bureaucrats. So what Trump is doing now is really what he always wanted to do, to bring the world to a new order, an order dominated by the rivalry between China and America, the technological, military, financial rivalry between Washington and Beijing. That is the new era. And in that new era, there's no room. There's no room for Europe or the Troika or whatever. The French, the Germans, and the Brits are learning the hard way that they have lost the new great game. And the new great game is the one pitting America against China. And the reason why Trump is not attacking Iran brutally is that in northern Iran, Russia has a lot of strategic interest. In southeast Iran, Sistan and Baluchistan, there's a heavy Chinese presence. And he's taking into account the fact that southeast Iran is part of the Chinese sphere of influence. Northern Iran, Mazandaran, Golestan, and eastern Tajikistan are part of the Russian sphere of influence. Trump respects that. And it's the only thing that keeps him really in that way, in that situation towards the regime of Iran. He's hostile to the regime of Iran. He's pressuring the Iranian regime, but not too harshly.
Mm-hmm. Let me go here to Mr. Ahmed Maharem, and What do you think were the Iran's primary motivations for returning to those face-to-face negotiations with the European powers after the recent conflict?
I think after the 12-day war, as your guests have said, Iranian government, Iranian leaders knows exactly what is the main objective of Israel from one part and America from the other part. The results of those 12 days war was not exactly what Benjamin Netanyahu was hoping to. So mainly the Iranians are expecting that Israel, by all means, still keeping in their mind that no chance, according to Israeli, no chance for Iranian to have a nuclear program in the future. While the opposite is exactly, Iranian consider that as a matter of national interest. And none of the allies in the areas are believing that Israel will stop doing what they are planning to do. Benjamin Netanyahu is too busy conquer different areas, not only Gaza. He is trying to do something in Syria, in Iraq. He is trying also to attack Yemen from time to time. But the main target for Benjamin Netanyahu is Iran. To what extent America will lead him to do so? Last time, I think he was hoping to doing the war more than 12 days to make it bigger than that. But according to Trump, by the time he found that this is not the right time for Israel to do that. I think Iranian has a strong point now to show that they will still negotiate from PowerPoint, not from a weak point. And matter of time, I think somehow the international leaders, they have to discover and to support Iranian to do what they're supposed to do.
But still, the primary goal here is not clear. We'll get back to you again, Mr. Maharem, but let me go to Mr. Meher. And is the snapback mechanism a fair diplomatic instrument, or does it risk further escalating tensions without offering real solutions?
I think this is where I was saying earlier. It's a theater because the International Atomic Energy
Agency, yes,
they are dominated. If you look at the CVs of the directors and the leadership and the people on the ground inspecting the nuclear sites in Iran, most of them, many of them are European. Many of them are actually French, British, German, Italian, whatever. But the real power is no longer in the hands of Europe, right? Europe is increasingly irrelevant. And the problem in strategic, be it military strategy or diplomatic strategy or economic strategy, it's the same idea. It is an idea of give and take. So with who do you negotiate? You don't negotiate with your friends, right? You negotiate with your rivals and your enemies, right? And so when Iran will be serious about negotiating, it will have to negotiate directly with Trump and vice versa. So when America will be serious about negotiation, of course, the only solution is direct Iranian American negotiations, not through Oman, not theatrically using the Omani or the Emirati or the Qataris or the Germans or the French. That's ridiculous. They have to negotiate directly. And why am I saying so? Because what Iran is looking for now, after that terrible 12 days war, which once again ended abruptly and ended in a way which was not satisfactory to the Israelis. So it ended in a way which suited America. So after the shocking 12 days war, the Iranians are a bit destabilized. They are in shock. So what do they seek? They want written, official guarantees from the only power in the world who has the capacity to hit them.
But they are not negotiating with the power that you said they should be addressing. They are negotiating with the Europeans, and this is in itself is a big question mark. Definitely, depending on what you're saying here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying it's empty theater, because the Europeans cannot give them what they need, right? What they need is guarantees from America. The only thing that Macron and Keir Starmer can give them are empty promises, right? So today there are bunker busters, the only country in the world which possesses them. So the only country in the world which can eradicate completely all of Iran's nuclear facilities is America, and they should negotiate. And I think they were initially, before the 12 Days War, there were secret direct negotiations between Tehran and Washington. And I think the Iranians underestimated Trump and they refused to make concessions. And because the Iranians refused to make concessions, the process, that negotiation process between America and Iran dragged down. It dragged down slowly, slowly. And I think the Israelis saw a window to hit the Iranians before the process matured.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me here go to Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed, you heard what Mr. Fazeli here said. Why do you think the Iranians are going to Europeans for negotiations, and could these renewed negotiations pave the way for a lasting diplomatic breakthrough, or are both sides simply buying time, and if they are buying time, for whose interests?
Well, if it's buying time, let us say Iranians, they consider, and they are right on that, not all European countries are on the same target with America. There is different interests and different kind of views. So maybe having some more time in the future to negotiate the benefits of each country is not exactly as before. Most of the European countries, they were as allied to America. They were supposed to go in the same regime. But nowadays, I think the different interests will show in the future that maybe it could be on the benefit of Iranian to use this kind of gap to link their economic relation with European countries, not to be exactly as they used to be allied with the United States of America. So it is a matter of gaining time, but mostly I think it will be on the benefit of Iranian leaders.
Then buying time for the interests of who?
I think it could be a good question. You can consider it on the benefit of Iranian. On the other side, if Iranians are considering the other side is buying time, so it could be who will be smart enough to use the buying time to their benefit.
Well, Mr. Maher, following recent developments, Iran and the European powers have agreed to hold another round of talks. And we're speaking here about buying time. So, given the E3's increasing pressure to trigger the snapback mechanism, do you think Iran will be forced to compromise in order to prevent further European action? And what could be this European action?
Well, I think honestly, and I don't want to sound cynical, but Europe's actions or inaction, so if Europe, comes to Iran's help, which is very unlikely, or if Europe slaps sanctions on Iran, whatever they do, be it positive or negative, will have a minimal impact because the world changed dramatically. Why was Europe important in coming to reaching the first Iran nuclear deal, which Trump canceled in 2018? Because President Barack Obama...
let me here speak about this, because President Trump, in his first time, did not cancel the deal. Rather, he just withdrew from it.
Yes,
please.
Yeah, he withdrew. But when you have one power, which represents 60, 70, 80% of the world's financial power, withdrawing from an international treaty, automatically, that treaty is voided from most of its meaning. And what I'm coming at, the reason why Germany, Britain, and France played an important part 15 years ago in reaching the first Iran nuclear deal is because Hillary Clinton at the State Department and Barack Obama in the White House, they wanted Europe on board. So it's actually the State Department and the White House, Obama and Clinton, they went to Paris and London and Berlin and told them, guys, we want you on board in the structuring of that deal. Today, it's a completely different world. Trump does not want to have Keir Starmer or Emmanuel Macron on board in his dealings with the Middle East or Iran. He couldn't care less about them.
Mr. Ahmed, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian stated that while Tehran remains cautious about the ceasefire with Israel, it is keeping the door to diplomacy open. In contrast, given Israel is intensifying regional military actions. Now, do you think Tel Aviv has any interest in engaging diplomatically with Iran?
Well, from the point of Iran, they have to do a matter of a good diplomatic deal. Hopefully it can succeed. But meanwhile, also they have to show that they are strong enough in case this diplomatic, with after certain time or different kind of pressure and negotiation, will not lead to what the Iranian national interest will lead. That means they are also capable to defend their national interest, to defend their country. So they have to deal with both kind of views. Either they're strong enough to make negotiation, and also they can defend the rights and national interest with military action. Sometime it will happen. I think both ideas are considered by the Iranian president.
Right. Let me go here to Mr. Maher. And the E3 nations have reiterated that they will consider activating the snapback mechanism if Iran fails to cooperate with the IAEA or reduce its enriched uranium stockpile. Now, with the October deadline approaching and considering the exhaustion reportedly felt by both Israel and Iran after the 12-day war, what alternative strategies could all parties adopt to avoid further escalation if a deal is not reached in time?
I think it's in the interest of America and Iran to reach some kind of deal. And the thing which is blocking, the main thing blocking that deal is Iran refuses to make concessions. And why do they refuse to make concessions? Because they're clinging to the letter of international law, and they're saying it's unfair. We, quote unquote, Iranians are not allowed to enrich uranium above 17, 18, whatever, 19%. It's unfair because Israel and Pakistan and India, they are already enriching, and let's not forget that Pakistan and India, they are Iran's neighbors. Israel is also Iran's neighbor. So what the Iranians are saying, it's unfair. Our neighbors, the Pakistanis, the Indians, the Israelis, they can enrich whatever they want, 90%, 95%. It's all kosher or halal. But us poor uraniums, when we reach 17, 18% enrichment, they bomb us. So they're saying, it's a double standard, blah, blah, blah. And they're saying we are using it for mostly peaceful civilian energy production facility. And so by clinging to international law, they have a rigid, I'm not saying they have a ridiculous position, but they have a rigid position. And they're telling the Americans, no, it's unfair. We're not changing our stance. We remain where we are today. Trump is telling them aggressively, I don't care about civilian, military, whatever, dual use. That's my way or the highway. You have to stop enriching uranium, full stop. If you make concessions, I, President Trump, I'm willing to enter with the Iranian government in some kind of treaty or big deal, and even open trade and commercial and economic relations with the mullahs in Tehran. But so far, the mullahs are not budging. The only hope for the Iranian regime is buying time, hoping that the Chinese will strengthen their position in Sistan and Balochistan. The southeast of Iran is becoming part of China's greater sphere of influence. And even more so, once the war in Ukraine will be over, and the war in Ukraine will soon be over, with America's blessing, what will happen? Russia's influence in northern Iran, in Mazandaran, Golestan, Zanjan, eastern Azerbaijan, that region on the Caspian Sea has always been part of Moscow's sphere of influence for the past 2,000 years. So Russia will come back to northern Iran, and the mullahs in Tehran think that China and Russia perhaps can protect them.
So these are enough reasons for them to buy time Let me go here to Mr. Ahmed. And Iran continues to insist it will not abandon its nuclear program, which Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has described as a matter of national pride. Now, how has this position shaped previous rounds of nuclear talks, and how might it pose additional obstacles moving forward?
Well, I think it has both different meaning. There is difficulties to approach that, but meanwhile, what they are trying to do is to save their the dignity and to show their own people and the international that Iranian is not weak enough, but they are strong enough to defend their rights. So I think buying time, from my view, is a good element to Iranian, especially if the Ukrainian war will be over, China will do something better with the Iranian situation. So matter of time with Iranian will be a kind of gift from the sky.
But remember here, sir, that even during the 12-day war, Iran refused to abandon its nuclear capabilities and refused to stop enriching uranium. So do you think really Iran is it just saving the dignity, or it's the water, its face waters, or is it really a matter of pride here?
Well, the time and the effort spent years and years, decades, to reach such a kind of technically they succeed to do so, it will not be easy for a decision maker to say that we cannot continue. They have to continue. The damage, I think, according to different technical reports, is not that much as Israel and America are expecting. The damage can be repaired sometime, somehow. And Iranians are capable, I think, to do a kind of compromise to deal with the negotiation, but also they can be ready anytime to continue with the program.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Meher, Iran has signaled its readiness to resume technical consultations with the IAEA after definitely partially suspending cooperation. How significant is this step in terms of both Iran's nuclear trajectory and broader implications for global security?
I think the inspection regime will ultimately change. So I think what the White House wants is a permanent, so not, because the International Atomic Energy Agency, what they did in the past, they came to inspect certain sites in Iran intermittently. So they came every 3 months, every 5 months. And I think the White House does not want that anymore. They want a permanent presence of nuclear inspectors all the time, constantly present in Iran. And they want that inspection regime to be supervised directly by the Americans themselves, right? That is
yes,
one of...
Right, but before we continue on with this conversation, you just mentioned here a piece of information. So a change in the Iranian regime, is a piece of information, or is this a speculation?
No, a change in the inspection regime. So the inspection regime is...
The inspection regime.
Yeah, the way the International Energy Agency... And let's remember, most of these guys are Italian, French, Austrian, German. And it's fine. It's fine for America. But America believes today that it's no longer enough to have them visit intermittently every 3 months. And, remember, when they visit Iran, they don't fly to Tehran in their private jet. They inform the Iranian government 10 days or 2 weeks before, we are flying to Tehran in 10 days. We will be visiting the Al-Borz nuclear facility. So Trump doesn't want that. He wants a permanent presence on Iranian ground, and he wants them to have, by law, the capacity to visit anywhere, anytime they want. And the Iranians view that as an infringement on their sovereignty. Once again, the Iranians look across the border in Pakistan, in India, in Israel, and they're telling the Europeans, but look, why humiliate us? Why impose on us these stringent conditions when you don't do the same in Israel and Pakistan and India? So it's a dialogue of the deaf. When people don't speak the same language, it becomes a dialogue of the deaf. And I'm afraid that European-Iranian dialogue today will lead nowhere serious.
What remains to be seen about the end of such negotiations and the results that would come out of it. Now, that was Mr. Meher Nicholas Fazeli, Director of the EU Asian Center, and Mr. Ahmed Maharim, writer and political analyst. We thank you both, gentlemen, for the fruitful insights here. And I guess that brings us to the end of today's episode of Think Tank, which always unveils the complexities of our changing world. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.